Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome. Good afternoon. And so we had a bit of a change of schedule because we were planning on jumping on the closing statements of Dave, the bathtub murders, but I heard from multiple people, Michelle, that they're having this press conference today at 3:15 Eastern, so in about 15 minutes. I want to start a little bit early so we can kind of talk about the updates, the story. I'm going to play a little clip here first to kind of just take it back a little bit. We've covered this, I think, once or twice before. Yes, like they're adding two more bodies, I guess, or victims to the list. He was charged, and I don't know if this is updated since. I haven't checked in a while. July 14, 2023, he was charged with the murders of Melissa and Amber and Megan, and then he was named the prime suspect in the murder of Maureen Barnes, and is also being investigated in the murders of another 6 women found dead near the beach, 2011. And we covered, like, the first time we covered this, there was some pretty interesting things because we covered, like, I think it was the 911 calls. It was really creepy and eerie. At the time, I had some connection issues, so the connection dropped. But figured we'd touch back up on this guy. I believe he's an architect, 59, maybe older now, 59 years old. The Long Island serial killer. Guy had wife and kids. And most of these women, I believe, were prostitutes. Or 4 of them, now I think 6 of them. So let me just play this short clip first. And thank you guys. Welcome to the stream. Hit the like button. Let's get started. And we'll do the closing arguments after this.
10 years since the discovery of those first bodies on Gilgo Beach. Eyewitness News reporters Josh Einiger and Kristen Thorne were there from the very beginning.
And Kristen is part of tonight's 2-hour special. And joining us with more is ABC's Deborah Roberts. Good morning. Good afternoon to you, Deborah. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us. So I understand that tonight we're going to hear from family and friends of the victims and maybe some people we haven't heard from before in terms of relatives. Is that right?
Absolutely. And as you said, Kristen is in this piece and she's helped us shed light because you have been following this story. So many people have been captivated by this story for more than a decade. And certainly here in the New York area, when we first began to hear that it appeared that there might have been multiple women who were missing and then found dead. And of course, then police began to suspect there was a serial killer. But yes, you will hear tonight. You'll go inside this investigation with us at 2020. You'll hear from the former.
And I think the original thing, if I remember correctly, is that they went searching for a missing woman and then they came across all these bodies, which is pretty wild. And there was a lot of back and forth. That missing woman, her name is it Shannon? She's deceased. Is it Shannon Gilbert? There was a whole bunch of drama with that too.
Former police chief of Suffolk County about how they stayed on this case. They were, many people began to sort of accuse them of not paying as much attention to this story because the women involved were women who work in the sex industry. But they absolutely push back and say they were dogged on this case. There were a lot of hiccups along the way.
What's up, everybody?
You'll hear tonight about how this case picked up steam over this last year. And of course, with the arrest of architect Rex Heuermann, who police say absolutely floored them. They didn't know exactly.
Living the life. They would have never thought this guy, I don't know if it was really, his house was kind of trash, but he was an architect.
Who they were looking for, but the suspect that they found, they said that they just were really surprised. A businessman with an office in Manhattan. That was something.
No way.
Something that really caught them off guard. But also tonight, you're going to hear from family members. These were not just nameless, faceless women. These were mothers. They were daughters. They were people who are still being mourned. You're going to hear from some of those, and you're going to hear from a good friend of one of these victims, who I think for the first time is speaking out to us tonight. So we'll take you out there to Long Island. I walked that area with one of the former police chiefs to talk about how thick that marsh is and why it was so difficult for them to figure out this case and how it just all came to light. And they tell us that this investigation is not over. As you all know, you've been following the story, and it may spawn, it may go across several states now. So there is a lot more to this investigation, even though they do have a suspect in custody, as it begins to unfold.
And Deborah, it will be fascinating to see it all laid out as you guys so artfully always do in the chronological order of exactly what happened, and then just hearing from these different family members. I'm curious though, because we've all talked about the Rodney Harrison piece when he said the FBI can come in and welcome that assistance and those eyes to come in, because that was such a point of contention from previous leaders in Suffolk County. What struck you hearing from these investigators about how all of this really was broken based on the collective approach to the investigation?
After so many years, yeah.
That's exactly right. And they make it very clear that it could not have happened without this collective group together. Yes, there were all kinds of, fits and starts.
And the DNA, I think it was a pizza box that linked his DNA. I think he threw out a pizza crust or a pizza box.
In Suffolk County, because we know how you've seen Suffolk County over the years with all kinds of, dysfunction sometimes in all kinds of offices. But they said that they never took their eye off the ball, and that they, even though some people have said they weren't as focused, they were always focused, but they just ran into roadblocks along the way. But it was really the last year, new DNA evidence, cell phone technology, all of those things breathing new life into this case that sort of brought it all together. And investigators who had been on it for a very long time as well. So it was almost like it all came together over the last year. They began to look at, more of their evidence again. And
okay, so let's get to some of before they start, it's going to be at, what time? At 3:15. We got about 5 minutes so we can work a little bit through this article. Make sure this link works here. Okay, good. Perfect. There was a woman that was pushed onto the subway tracks in Manhattan. Wow. Okay. So, Gilgo Beach serial killer suspect Rex Heuermann, where the hell did I go? Oh, is being probed over the death of 2 additional sex workers whose remains were scattered across Long Island. The 59-year-old father of 2 is charged with the deaths of Megan, Melissa, and Amber. This is what I just mentioned. Police are investigating his possible connection to the murders of 2 additional sex workers, Valerie and Karen, which I believe their pictures are in this article. Neither Mac nor Vergata were reported missing. Disgraced architect and father of 2, Rex Heuermann, is being probed in connection to the 2 deaths. He's also suspected, as I said, Maureen in that murder, but has yet to be charged in connection with her death. Suffolk County Commissioner Rodney K. Harrison announced Monday that he has assigned additional investigators to the case of the 2 other women, Valerie and Karen. He described the effort as a work in progress. So this is what the press conference is going to be about, for those wondering. Valerie, 25, went missing around the summer of 2000. Her remains were located that September, and more remains were discovered nearly 11 years later. The remains of Karen were found on Fire Island on April 1996. Her skull was recovered over a decade later in April 2011. Here's the guy. I thought it was a good idea to grab some people from the outside to take a look at other things that maybe potentially attach themselves to Rex Heuermann. The new officers are working to verify a number of tips while other members of the team try to identify the remains of 3 other individuals. Mac vanished from her New Jersey home in the summer of 2000. She was last known to be living in Philadelphia, where she worked as an escort under the name Melissa Taylor. Her partial skeletal remains were discovered in a wooded area, Manorville, in September 2000. Initially, she was known as a Jane Doe number 6. More remains found on April 4th, 2011, along Ocean Park during the search for Shannon Gilbert. It's a woman I just mentioned, a 23-year-old sex worker whose death may be related. There was a whole bunch of back and forth about this. I spoke about this on the previous live stream, where I think her family believes that it was connected. Well, investigators, I don't know if they said kind of not really. They had an autopsy done, and there was an independent autopsy done. There was a whole lot of back and forth, but Shannon Gilbert is really what led to these people finding all these other remains. Mac was identified in 2020. In recent weeks, task force detectives have asked Mac's relative about her family history, and she was adopted. They have gathered copies of letters Mac sent to family members in an effort to construct a timeline of her travels. Authorities mentioned Vergata, during an August 2023 press conference, Like all of Heuermann's victims, both she and Mac worked as escorts. There was even one person that I think was trans. So I don't know if Heuermann didn't know, maybe was caught by surprise. I think it was like an Asian person. So Mac's remains were found as authorities searched for Shannon Gilbert. There's a picture of that. Authorities stumbled across a growing number of bodies. This photo was taken on April 5th, one day after Mac's remains were found along Ocean Park. Let me see. Send a message here to them. Mods. Okay. We got 2 minutes. Let's see. Okay. Harrison said the task force is also trying to determine how the dismembered body of Brigada 34 was found on Fire Island in April 1996. Like Mac, Brigada was never reported missing. She was previously referred to as Jane Doe number 7. At the time of her disappearance, she was thought to have been working as an escort. The 34-year-old disappeared around Valentine's Day 1996. 2 months later, her legs were found in a plastic bag at a park near Fire Island's Blue Point Beach. Her skull was recovered over a decade later, April 2011, by Ocean Parkway. Brigada's remains were linked by DNA analysis that July, thanks to advancements in genetic genealogy. She was identified October 2022. All of Heuermann's alleged victims worked as escorts who advertised themselves on Craigslist. The remains were found on a stretch of Gilgo Beach in December 2010, all wrapped in camouflage burlap and bound with belts and red tape. All right, let me check here. So 314. This serial killer reminds me of that California serial killer. I've spoken about it a couple of times. The black guy, I'm trying to remember his name now. Yeah, he targeted a lot of sex workers. Let's see here. Just double checking for a press conference thing. Yeah, link. Lonnie, what's his name? Lonnie something, right? Lonnie. I don't see no presser yet. Okay. Grimwalker. So Grim Sleeper. Okay, let's see. Let's look him up. Lonnie. Serial killer. Something. Grim Sleeper. Lonnie David Franklin. This guy was. Oof. Oops. And he would target sex workers and nobody would really be looking for them. The Grim Sleeper. You guys remember him? This guy, how many was he accused of? Serial killer who was responsible for at least 10 murders and 1 attempted murder in Los Angeles, California from 1984 to 2007. He was also convicted for R and SV. And they found, he had like a whole photo album too. All his victims. I thought there was people on there too that they didn't know who they were. Let's see.
Update in the Gilgo Beach murders. The attorney for victims in the case is expected to announce new evidence. Let's listen in.
One other station that was late. And they're here? Okay, so.
This guy's a pimp.
I wasn't going to wait anyway, but, you know, if they step in, we might have to go over a few things. I don't know. All right, when you're ready, you tell me and I'll tell you I'm ready.
Is this the guy that the other time that was snapping?
Good afternoon, everybody. We're here today because new information has arisen in this case from witnesses who were so far unknown. Those witnesses, of which there are 4, have given us statements, 2 of whom have given us affidavits regarding this case, regarding Rex Heuermann and Shannon Gilbert and Karen Vergata. Before I talk about them, first, I want you to be aware that here stands the commissioner, as you know, with me. And up until now, we have not made it known to the public that we have been working together on this case steadily since the time that I came to know Commissioner Harris a year ago, February. Up until that point, the police department was very resistant to receiving any kind of evidence or information from my office from what I was doing. That all changed significantly when Commissioner Harris stepped in and we began to collaborate. And we've collaborated ever since. That collaboration has had fruit. And that fruit, at least, are the witnesses I'm going to be talking about today, as well as other evidence and information which we have shared together and with the police department, therefore with the task force. So it is true to say that our cooperation has given rise to more substantial, valuable evidence in the entire case of the Long Island serial killer. So with that in mind, I'm very pleased that Commissioner Harrison has seen fit to open his mind and to do what I'm suggesting has been done, contrary to all those who have come before him. And he's approaching this case in the right way. He's the right man for the job, and he's done his job well. As to the witnesses, as to the evidence, in no particular order of importance, because so much of it is important, I have stood as a beacon as a civilian beacon to the people who are involved in this case to come and talk where they didn't want to approach the police out of fear, out of apprehension, out of in some cases, a natural distaste for the police department because of the work these people were in. So they would then come to me and speak to me, and I would interview them, and we would then cooperate, them, and the police department. And so with that in mind, the first two witnesses I'm going to talk about are, both of them are not Suffolk County residents. I should point out that we obtained from these two affidavits. Their names will go unmentioned. Their names are blotted out of the affidavits, but the affidavits will be available to you right after the press conference. As to the first one I'll talk about, this is a witness who has every reason to have no bias, no interest in the case whatsoever. She was not a sex worker, is not a sex worker, and instead, back in the 90s, in the 1990s, she was what is known then and now as a swinger. She would have a sex partner, and they would go to certain sex clubs in New York City where they would switch partners with other people of like kind. One of the most important places that they would go was called La Trapeze on West 27th Street in New York, right near Rex Heuermann's office. And this was a notorious place for swapping, for switching partners. Sometimes several hundred people at a time would be involved in this place in its heyday. Its heyday was in the late 90s, right at the time that Karen Brigada is involved in this case. In this situation, this particular woman was dating a police officer from New York City who was in narcotics, a detective, and they would go to these switchy clubs, these swapping clubs.
Cop two?
At a certain time, at or about Valentine's Day of 1996, I believe, the couple went to La Trapeze, and I think it was on the wall at La Trapeze where an advertisement was placed to go to a house in Massapequa Park for partying, for switching, for swapping. She went with her boyfriend out to Long Island, but before they went, her boyfriend picked up a woman in New York, in the city, who had apparently just gotten out of jail, and she was disheveled and hungry, and she was a sex worker. We don't know the details yet of how he came to know her, but he knew her. And she came in the car with the two of them. They went to Massapequa Park. Before they got there, they stopped at a gas station, and the girl who was with them expressed some apprehension about where they were going and why. That was all wiped out when it was pointed out that he's a police detective, so don't worry, no problem. They ended up going to Rex Heuermann's house. In the house was the wife of Rex Heuermann and Rex Heuermann and the other girl. The other girl who we believe to be Karen Vergata.
What?
This girl disappears downstairs at the house. Rex Heuermann disappears. And according to our witness and other witnesses I've talked to, when men are swingers with their partner, very often they switch sexually. They go back and forth between male and female. And so Heuermann leaves the main floor and disappears either into another bedroom or downstairs. It's not clear. And the witness talks to Rex's wife. She doesn't want to have sex like she had expected to occur because our client believes because our client is an African-American woman. And Heuermann didn't like that. Ellerup, rather, didn't like that.
Uh-oh.
So there was no sex between them, as was originally planned. Instead, the sex is between Heuermann and the other man.
What?
At some point, the witness goes looking for her partner and is kind of upset that he doesn't emerge. He emerges, and finally, they leave, and kind of in a hurry. But when they leave, as they're leaving, the witness points out that she could see in the window, looking out, the girl that had come with them. And she says to her driver, her partner, "What are we doing? Are we taking her?" And the partner says, "Don't worry, they're just playing a game. She stays there, no problem." With that, the girl runs out of the house naked and is running in front of the garage. And now the witness says, "Hey, shouldn't we be taking her? Something's wrong here." And the driver tells her, "Nah, they're just playing a game. Leave it." And they leave. She never hears about the incident again. She distinctly remembers Heuermann. She also had intercourse with Heuermann that same day. And she kind of buries it, forgets about it. Until on TV, she sees the picture of Karen Vergata. And she recognizes her and said, "That's her." And she recognizes Rex Heuermann. And so she comes forward, and I meet her. I interview her at great length. I also had the police department. We arranged for detectives to 9 hours. And I found her story. I interviewed her for 3 times for a total of 9 hours. And I found her story to be credible. She also mentioned that Rex would go out in the backyard and start a fire at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning in a big barrel that was outside in the back. And she was worried about that, too, that it would attract police. Anyway, she seemed credible. She appears to be credible. And she was willing to sign an affidavit to that effect. And that affidavit will be available to everybody. In the details I've just told you, you will find there. The second witness who's come forward. This woman is not a sex worker, never was. She's not a switcher or swapper. She's not involved in any sexual activities whatsoever. She has nothing to gain by coming forward She's not looking for a book or money or the usual things that you're hearing about out there. None of that. But she came forward because she's very disturbed about what she knows after she also saw Rex Heuermann on television and Shannan Gilbert. And here's her story. She is a banker by day, and at night she worked extra in Suffolk County as a taxi driver to take care of her family. It was a one-parent family. As a taxi driver, she is called from her dispatcher to go to the Sayville Motor Lodge on Sunrise Highway, that infamous place that the commissioner here busted a year ago and for prostitution and other illegal activities. She's called to go to that place, and that there's a girl awaiting her who's locked in a bathroom and will come out if she flashes her lights and beeps the horn. And she goes there and does that several times. It doesn't work. But then suddenly a giant man who fits the description of Rex Heuermann comes out, and he's covering his face with his arms so he can't be seen, and he runs to a van or an SUV right nearby that's parked right there. She continues to flash her lights and beep her horn, and out comes a girl, crying, shaking, very upset, and gets in her car. There they talk for a while, and then eventually they drive to the Ronkonkoma Railroad Station so that this girl can go back in to New York City. This girl was a sex worker who was servicing the big man, and the man had seduced her into coming to Sayville by several times over the telephone, convincing her that he was just a nice man who was going to help and work with her to help her family, her mother, her sisters, and her boyfriend. Shannan has a mother, sisters, and a boyfriend at that time. She had her hair pulled back, and because she often wore wigs. This girl turns out to be Shannan Gilbert. Now, Shannan is lured into doing this particular tryst, and she's given an envelope, or shown an envelope by the man that looked like it was stuffed full of money. And he tells her, there's $1,000 in there. It's for you and your family no matter what happens tonight. She looks in the envelope when he goes to the bathroom, and it's stuffed with paper. And so she panics and realizes something's wrong. So she goes in the bathroom, and he had become very aggressive, very angry. She goes in the bathroom, locks the door, and calls to get a cab. And that's how she comes out. They speak for over an hour. So the driver knows her well and notices that she has a drooping eye, which is characteristic of Shannan, and also a characteristic of her family, by the way, going back for a generation or two. And so she notices that, and it helps her to remember Shannan when she sees her later on. That's the first part of the story. It doesn't end there. This is part two. Several days or weeks later, it's not clear, and this is all occurring in the fall of 2009. This is all occurring. The driver gets another call from the same dispatcher and says that there's a man named Matt who she's to pick up right off of exit 59 in the expressway, and he would be at a bar that was there by, I guess, Ocean Avenue, somewhere over there. She goes there, pulls up on a side street between the bar and a house right next to it, and she sees a girl in a window, and then she sees to the right of her a huge man rising up, coming to the car. He's dressed in camouflage, and he leans in and then jumps in the back seat, sits on the edge and leans over and starts talking to her, and she's watching him very carefully in the mirror. And she recognizes him as the same guy that was at the motel a little while before. And she now knows him to be, she recognizes him from the media as Rex Heuermann. He says to her that he wants her to take him on a long trip into the woods. In other words, he changed the destination she had been told, which caused her immediately to become suspicious. And he was very upset, very angry, and he began to dispute with her when she said, "I'm not going on a long trip anywhere." And with that, he gets extremely angry and threatens to kill her and tells her, "I already want to kill you. Just give me a reason." And he had a gun, a handgun. She says, "I'm not going anywhere at this point." And she turns off the car and she says, "You can have the keys, you can have my money, whatever you want, just let me go. I'll let you have whatever you want." With that, her dispatcher is on the radio, and he says out loud, "We know, we see you, we hear you, we can tell who you are." And the man panics, gets out of the car. She's then able to drive away. She encounters a police car coming the other way. She believes that the police officer was called by a 911 caller on that issue. Could have been the girl who was in the house right next door from where she was. But comes the police, driving slowly with his lights off. She tells him the story, and the man had on a lanyard with a placard of some kind, as if he were a police officer. And she asked him, "Are you a cop?" And he said, "Yes." She said, "From where?" He said, "Brooklyn." With those facts in mind, she tells the police officer who's driving, "There's one of yours back there, and it looks like he's had a bad day. So you better go see what's what." Words to that effect. She later on hears from her dispatcher that this man, went into the woods and fired off his pistol twice. And she recognizes him very clearly to be Rex Heuermann when she sees him. So she's given us this affidavit as well. There's a pattern that's developing here of Rex Heuermann being somebody who tracks down people and haunts them. And Shannon Gilbert would therefore be no exception. Now, the third witness has not given a statement yet. The third witness contacted me from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And that witness clearly recalls being picked up. She was a street walker. She gets picked up by Rex Heuermann. He in Queens, and he drives, I think, near the big center there in Queens, and he drives her into a park in Flushing, where he makes her keep her head down at all times, commit oral sex, and then he has a pistol in his hand and tells her, "Get out of the car or I'm going to kill you. And don't do anything except what I tell you to do or I'm going to kill you." So she gets out of the car and he tells her, before she does, he tells her, "I want you to pick up another person, another customer." She gets out of the car and immediately pulls up another SUV and a man driving it, an African-American man. And the guy that picks her up is white. And she gets in the other guy's car. And the driver, Rex Heuermann, follows the car. They go. Finally, get out of the car because she panics and pulls the wheel because she sees a cop car coming. So the cop sees them go jaggedy off the road, and the cop stops them. The cop then goes back, talks to Rex and the other driver who gets out and walks back. The cop comes back and tells her, "Lady, if you want to make a complaint, you have to go to the precinct," and drives away. That's her story. She also has no reason. She refuses to come forward. She refuses to have herself identified. I know her name. I know her address. I've given it to the police. They're aware of it, and presumably they're investigating it. You see the pattern. There's a pattern of a guy who likes to play kind of sporting games with the sex workers, chases them, haunts them, hunts them. That's what we're looking at here, we believe, anyway. The fourth witness, and I'll finish on that, she comes from another state, and she's contacted me as well. I have very lengthy notes and recordings of what we discussed. She was a sex worker for many years, back in the time when all of these killings were occurring, and she serviced Rex Heuermann. She said that she would service Rex Heuermann over 20 times, and that he was a serial user of sex workers. He would sometimes have them come 2 at a time to his house, and his wife was home upstairs, and in one instance got very angry at one of the sex workers because the wife believed that the worker had stolen an iron for ironing clothes, and had it in the car with the driver. So the driver had to get out. Everybody had to search the car. There was no iron. But the wife knew about it and knew about, obviously, what was going on in order for that to happen. So she says that in her experience with Heuermann, he was never impolite. He was always nice. He was always funny. He treated her well, and there was no violence. But he certainly had contact with Rex constantly for a period of several years. That's as much as I'm able to tell you. There's plenty of other new evidence, which I think it will take too long at this press conference to discuss. There's plenty of new other evidence that's similar in kind and consistent with the kinds of things that I've just described to you. So with that thought, I'm hoping that the police department will continue along with the task force, that they will continue to look into these things, investigate them thoroughly, make the synapses that haven't been made so far, connect them up and connect the dots, as it were. And I think we're getting to where we want to go. Lastly, I am still working on this case. Today, I took Joseph Brewer's deposition, the John for Shannon Gilbert. I just finished it and came here. I'm still actively pursuing this case on my own, as well as cooperating with the police department and the task force. But for people out there who have information and are afraid to come forward to the police, they can talk to me. They can reveal whatever they want. I will reveal it to no one. I reveal these things with their permission, the things that I told you about. But anybody else that still has information, I'm available. My door is open. My phones are open. I can help you. Thank you.
Commissioner Harrison, the information presented about Karen Brigada, she's the first known victim of the serial killer. Does this lead you to make Rex Heuermann the prime suspect in her murder in 1996?
You know, I don't want to make Rex Heuermann the prime suspect. I will say this, and I'll share this over and over again. The creation of the task force got us into a good place of being able to identify Rex for 3 of the sex workers that were discovered, and we're looking very good for the 4th one. But we also added 2 more investigators to the task force to take this type of information in and to pursue it, to follow it, to see if this is credible. That's very important, and that's why people don't understand. When I first came into this position, I sat down with John Ray, myself and the members of the task force, to have that conversation about information that he may have, and let's make sure we're putting a dragnet out there regarding any information that's coming to us. That's why I'm going to continue my partnership with John. And if people have a reluctancy to come forward to law enforcement and they want to go to John Ray, then it's important that we take this information and then we follow forward with furthering the investigation. So
do you believe this is credible?
It's still an ongoing investigation, so I'll leave it at that. But once again, is this: we have the information, we're working it, and we'll see where it leads us down the road.
And you're saying to us earlier that you're going to leave no stone unturned, and the fact that there are possibly more affidavits that you can use to possibly find future victims.
Absolutely, and that's a very good question, and that's why I stand here today with John Ray. If people don't want to use our Crime Stoppers hotline, and they feel a lot more comfortable going to John Ray or anybody else, I want to make sure that people understand that we have a job here as law enforcement, as the Suffolk County Police Department, to make sure we investigate every single complaint or interest in this case, make sure that we look under every single stone to see if there is any connection to Rex Heuermann, or if there is a connection to somebody else that may be involved with the bodies that were discovered on Ocean Parkway.
Commissioner, you heard about or known about the affidavit before today? What's the time frame?
So we could go about a month and a half, depending on 2 months, depending on each one. For one of the affidavits, I was actually sat down with the person myself. That just shows you my vested interest in it. Listen, this is something that's very important to me. I'm going to continue to grind to make sure anybody that had an interaction with our defendant, Rex Heuermann, is held accountable in this case.
Which witness did you sit down with? Number one or number two?
The delivery cab driver.
The taxi driver?
The taxi cab driver, yeah.
That's the one with Shannon Gilbert?
That's the one with Shannon Gilbert, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
What year was that? 2007 or 9? 2009.
The taxi driver is 2009, the fall of 2009, and she is not absolutely certain of the time frame, but that's where it approximates.
And that's where, Mary, that's where we're going to make sure we're doing our job and trying to nail down time frames, look at radio runs and other things that can help us kind of pinpoint if there is any credibility to these complaints that came forward.
And the commissioner did send 2 detectives to interview the other witness with me, which we did already and at length.
John or Commissioner, did any of these witnesses explain why they didn't come forward before now?
Yes.
Was it immediately when they saw Rex Heuermann's picture?
Yeah, it was certainly a question we had to ask. We have to ask many, many questions to test credibility. And I'm not saying that people would necessarily lie, although they might, but that they don't remember or they mix up facts with other situations. We had to test all of those things. And so we had to test that too. And in the one case with the witness with the swapping, it bothered her that they left behind this girl, but she had no other reason to think anything of it until she saw this. She actually broke down. She couldn't believe it when she saw the picture and knew that girl. And that happened there. With the taxi driver, the taxi driver did report it. The taxi driver, back when this originally happened, she talked to her, her cousin was a cop. She spoke to her family. She spoke to other taxi drivers. She told a lot of people about it. And then she did contact Crime Stoppers and report it and actually talked to them twice, but nobody called her back. So that's long before the commissioner was involved. So she did come forward and she said, well, when it got reactivated, the issue, then she called me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Did you find the witness too credible, the person you sat with, Commissioner?
So, the way John explained it, and you got to just kind of take this into context, she doesn't have a stake in the game. She's a cab driver at night, had a profession during the day. She's not necessarily from this neighborhood. So, there's little things like that kind of piqued my interest. And once again, is this, why did she come forward and her role and story and everything? It's something that we need to take a closer look at, and we need to make sure we're investigating it. And that's why the task force will stay in place. That's why we added more manpower to it. We're going to continue to work with our law enforcement partners and see if there is any nexus to our defendant, Rex Heuermann, or once again, like I said before, if there happens to be another subject out there, we'll look at them as well and see if we can hold them accountable.
And it was reported that you guys were honing in on Valerie Mack and Karen Vergata. In this case, does this add Shannon Gilbert to the list of those two that you're intensely looking at, their personal lives and whereabouts?
Well, it's all the bodies that were discovered. Let's not rule out Peaches, the Tyler, the Asian male. Those were the names that I shared with Tony, but it doesn't mean that we're not continuing to look at all the bodies that were discovered there. But the ones right now that John has, when it comes to Ms. Vergata and when it comes to Ms. Gilbert, are the ones that we're going to take a closer look at and see if they're connected to our defendant.
Any update on the fourth victim, Megan?
Yeah, so I know our district attorney should be doing an announcement real soon, and he'll keep you advised regarding if there's a nexus to the DNA that was recovered, and if there is a match.
So this witness one said that Rex had sex with both the woman, you think that is Vergata, and this other man, like an off-duty detective. So knowing that indicates he's probably potentially bisexual. Does that make him more of a leading suspect in an Asian male?
Listen, anything is possible, but once again, this is something that we need to investigate, and I'm sure everybody can understand. There's a judicial process still going on. There's ongoing investigation now that this information has been provided to us. I can only share but so much, but I will reassure everybody here, we are not done with this investigation. I want to make sure that that's very clear.
John, can I ask you, is James Burke involved in any of this?
Well, I can't say he is, and I can't say he's not. He certainly reactivated interest in himself by what he did up on Bald Hill, which, by the way, you probably know that it's a notorious place for men picking up other men. I've represented several clients from that hill for that very same thing, and Burke was a street smart cop. He's even noted in his disciplinary record for being extremely streetwise. He would have known what goes on up on that hill, but he also would have known the risk he was taking, and he took it anyway. Burke, the risk taker, emerges, first of all, and second of all, Burke, who is interested in men, emerges, which is very much consistent with what I had said for years, that he was cross-dressing when he was with some of my clients, including Loretta Rickenbacker, and that he had that other interest. Do those other interests matter? Sure they do. If you're going to look at the old police department and see why did Burke get to where he went so easily? Could it be that there's more sexual improprieties on higher levels than we originally thought? It's something that should be looked into. We don't know.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
No.
The second witness, the cab driver, are you saying that she contacted police initially when Shannon Gilbert went missing, when her picture emerged in the media, when she first went missing?
No.
Did she only contact you after seeing Rex Heuermann and Shannon Gilbert's face on TV?
Yeah, she contacted me after she saw Rex Heuermann on TV and Shannon Gilbert. And then she contacted me, and then I went to see her, and she's not from this state.
Okay, so she claimed that she never saw Shannon Gilbert's face on TV or in the media prior to this year.
That I don't know. I can't say she claimed that. I honestly don't remember whether I asked her that or not. All right, sorry.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Oh.
We give you the affidavits.
Oh, boy. So they say the man got male lovers and supposedly is swinging. He points the finger at the wife again. He's already pointed the finger at the wife before. Pointing the finger at the wife again, but this name that we kept hearing, Burke. I kept referencing Burke. I was wondering, like, who's Burke? Who's Burke? And so Burke, suspected Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann, may have met disgraced police chief James Burke while gay cruising in Long Island, according to prosecutors. That was great gay cruising. John Ray, a lawyer for families of two women found dead on the East New York Peninsula, says several sources have contacted him over the past month to say they previously encountered Heuermann roaming the area looking for casual sex. This comes after the former Gilgo cop Burke was busted for allegedly offering oral sex to an undercover cop male park ranger at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park, Farmingville, an area known for gay cruising. Wow. Cruising in this context means walking or driving around a locality, cruising ground in search of anonymous one-time partner. Long Island is allegedly littered with gay cruising grounds, including the area where Burke was arrested, known colloquially as Pickle Park. What in the heck is that? What the hell going on? Yeah, this is what y'all been talking about. This is what y'all been covering. I haven't really talked about Rex since the last president. What the hell? Pickle Park. Let me tell you, Google that. I'm gonna have to. Pickle Park. What? Pickle. I'm afraid to even show you guys. Let me just search it on my own on the side. Pickle Park. Wow. Hell nah, bruh. Mm-mm. Okay, so this is the cop. James Burke busted last week for allegedly offering oral. Yeah, this guy exposing all kinds of John Ray. Some longtime Suffolk County residents who asked not to be identified revealed to Daily Mail that there are many pickle parks along the island and that they are a breeding ground for sexual activity, prostitution, and drugs. That's the first time in my life I ever heard of pickle park. Attorney Ray has also been looking into these hunting grounds in the most recent development of his decade-long campaign to secure justice for the woman killed. He said several sources have told him key suspect Heuermann, 59, was also known on the local gay cruising scene, and there's no question this link could have brought him into contact with Burke. Wow. I have several people who contact me because they don't want to talk to the police and they have real fears and they don't want their families to know, but they've shared with me that Rex is a cruiser. Obviously, it's all the word of mouth and evidence is hard to come by, but I've had several people tell me the same thing. Ray added that he is urging Suffolk County Police to investigate any potential social ties between the two men. Burke was charged in August 22 with offering a sex act, indecent exposure, public lewdness, and criminal solicitation in the 5th degree after he was detained near Pickle Park. It only came a month after Daily Mail exclusively revealed that Burke bungled the investigation. Ooh, so is there something there? Are they lovers and he's like helping out his serial killer, allegedly pickle friend, into the Giggle Beach killings and led a double life that allegedly included smoking crack, cross-dressing, and relationships with prostitutes. That's pretty crazy. That's what he was talking about. The cop bungled the investigation. So what did he do? He screwed up the investigation. And so this cop was over here smoking crack, allegedly, and cross-dressing in relationships. And that's interesting because, as they mentioned during this press from this guy, that one of the victims that were killed was I believe like a trans person, transsexual, Asian transsexual. Interesting. Daily Mail has contacted Suffolk County Sheriff's Office and Heuermann's attorney in regard to Ray's claims. Oh no!
The Rangers ascertained that our perpetrator involved was identified as James Burke, former chief of the Suffolk County Police Department.
An undercover operation at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Brookhaven ends up with one of the county's infamous ex-cops under arrest for soliciting a man.
He was expressing to us how this would, be a public humiliation for him.
James Burke used to wear 4 stars as the highest-ranking police officer.
He was worried about them coming out with this information. Damn.
In Suffolk County.
Chief, do you have anything else to say?
Then the FBI arrested him in 2015, accusing him of beating burglary suspect Christopher Loeb while Loeb was handcuffed in a police precinct.
I got choked, I got punched, I got slapped, I got kicked.
Now Burke's been arrested again, accused by park rangers of soliciting a male undercover ranger for a sex act near the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Brookhaven.
At 10:15 a.m. today, during this operation, they engaged one individual who was soliciting for sexual engagement.
The charges: offering a sex act, public lewdness, indecent exposure, criminal solicitation. 10 years ago, Chris Loeb said the former police chief was enraged that Loeb, a drug user, stole sex toys and porn tapes from Burke's official police vehicle. The former Suffolk District Attorney, Tom Spoda, eventually went to federal prison for trying to cover up the crime.
He was a longtime mentor to Burke, beginning when Spoda, a young prosecutor, recruited a 13-year-old Burke as the star witness against other boys in the murder of John Pius behind Dogwood Elementary School in Smithtown. As a uniformed cop, Burke was later investigated by Internal Affairs on allegations he consorted with sex worker Larita Rickenbacker and didn't secure
Rickenbacker
his police gun. That didn't stop Tom Spoda from naming Burke as the top investigator in the DA's office once Spoda rose to power. The two men were later accused of stopping the FBI from helping to solve the Gilgo Beach serial killer case. Nearly 13 years after the first bodies were found, an architect from Massapequa Park, Rex Heuermann, was accused of killing 3 of the women dumped near Ocean Parkway. The chief of Park Police in Suffolk County told reporters his team was addressing quality of life complaints from people in Brookhaven. The officer who made the arrest from the Targeted Response Unit did not realize who he was dealing with at first.
Oh, that's got to be... Man, so they all catching L's. Wow. Pickle Park.
Good afternoon. I'm John Ray, and I'm the lawyer for several of the victims' families of the Gilgo Beach, Oak Beach killer or killers. I'm here today, this afternoon, to address the press conference held on behalf of the Ellerup family moments ago. Let us start with this. It is not just a considered opinion, but it is undeniable that the Ellerup family are not the victims. They are not the victims. It is the Ellerup family that is trying to make a living off of this horrifying thing that occurred in their house, under their watch, under their eyes, under their supervision. As to Mrs. Ellerup should be considered a suspect. There are 2 of her hairs found on 2 of the bodies. And it doesn't matter what was said at the beginning of this investigation, she is a suspect. This man, T-Rex Heuermann, engaged in the use of sex workers over the years, many of them, over and over again in his home. Mrs. Ellerup was present in this tiny little home when that occurred. I have a witness, first-hand knowledge of that. The witness refuses to come forward, but I've spoken at length with the witness and she is credible. Mrs. Ellerup, involving herself in her husband's depredations with regard to sex workers, using them over and over and over again in his home, is part of the criminal enterprise.
Wow. What a mess. Of course, those are accusations, I don't know. We don't know. But, wow. Wow. Mamma mia. What a mess. Maybe we'll come back to this stuff, huh? I was not expecting this today, bro. As far as this, I wasn't expecting this, but I thought it was gonna be like police doing a presser. I didn't think the attorney was gonna be doing a presser. And the bombshell. I almost feel like I need to re-listen to that whole story that he told, because I almost got lost in the story he was telling. Oh, check it. Let me do this real quick. I want to see if this works. We're going to be doing another stream in 30 minutes, by the way. We're going to be looking at the closing statements for the bathtub murders. Let me see something. Oh, I figured it out. Nice. Okay, something. I have merch, by the way. I am setting up merch. Probably not the best time to plug it, but I'm working on it. It's on the website. It's actually, I just figured out how to make it pop up on the bottom of the screen. I only have one design right now, but I'm going to be adding more to it. Let me see if it works here. You're disgusting. Let's see. Does it work? Oh, it works. Cool, it works. Awesome. I didn't know that's what I had to do. Okay. So yes. Well, weird, huh? I'm gonna come out with more stuff though, so don't worry if you don't like what you see. I'm gonna be adding more. I had to switch websites because it was a pain in the butt. So I switched websites. I ordered some products for myself so I can just double check and try it out myself. It should be here by next week. I'm doing another stream in like 30 minutes. Do any of you believe this? I don't know. I wouldn't be I wouldn't be surprised as far as like, I mean, I don't know for a fact. None of us, but it's like this crazy sex life and sex workers and all these people sleeping with each other. I've heard of people doing that kind of shit. I mean, a lot of people do that stuff. I thought it was weird when he said like the wife was upset because she thought that supposedly the sex worker stole a clothing iron. I almost want to hear this again, but I don't have time because we have the other stream coming. Maybe we'll listen to it on the I don't know, the second channel, or maybe on a Discord. Well, the nights on a Discord. By the way, I think I figured out the disconnect ish. I don't know if I say I figured out a resolution. So far I've done 3 streams, no disconnects, 1 private test, 1 member stream, and then now this public stream. So I think I figured it out. There might be sometimes a little screen tearing, but I think that's better than the stream dropping. Oh, sled merch? Sled. I gotta show you a video. By the way, there's gonna be, Carly, correct me on this. For Alec Murdoch, there's gonna be, I don't want to say hearing. They're gonna listen to their argument or something about the whole tampering with the jury. So I don't know if that's gonna be streamed or not. I don't know when it's happening, but they accepted it. So I'm like, as far as to listen to what they have to say. So I am curious. I am very curious. If there's another trial, we're going to be definitely streaming that if it happens. I don't know if they're going to get that far, but so far this is a W for Alec. Ems Maurice, thank you so much for the gifts. Thank you. 5 memberships. They're in deliberation, Amy. Perfect time to go do this. Closing arguments. In other news, Van der Sloot. Yeah, Van der Sloot, he'd confessed to the murder of Natalie Holloway. Van der Sloot. I don't know why he confessed. I wonder how they did that. What was the deal with that? But that's good. That's good for the family. Guy confessed. Maybe less hassle, I guess, right? Yes, Christina says that's because Van der Sloot is already in prison on a 28-year sentence for extortion against Natalie's mother. He has nothing to lose. He'll finish his sentence and then come back to the U.S. Yep. We were just talking about that in the members live. Oh, no. Come on, Geraldine. You say you can't watch another Murdoch trial? Come on. Oh, come on. He confessed to the financial stuff, so can they bring all that financial stuff back up? That was the roughest part, was the financial stuff. They already got that guy in so many other things. They're like nailing him. They have that man in so many other, he's never getting out. Even if they find him not guilty, somehow they find him not guilty of the murder. He's never getting out of that ish. They keep finding more and more charges. I'm like, dang, the guy's already done. Sled. Let me show this video. I don't know did you guys watch the Alex Murdoch movie? We were watching it on Netflix. Boy, popping pillies. I pause it. Okay. I don't know if I can show this without there being a problem. So far, no disconnects, which is amazing. I don't want to jinx it though by talking about it. I just can't even ever talk about it again. Boop, boop. Disconnect. Member for 4 months. Thank you. Who's that? Malice in Wonderland. I like that name. Malice. Chaos in Wonderland. 4 months. Thank you, Mel. Thanks. Appreciate that. Oh, I got a new poisonous tree. It's not really poisonous. I like to say it's a toxic tree, but it's not. It just has some sap that can cause skin irritation. We got Melissa. I don't know if Melissa's out there somewhere. Melissa got me a new tree that grows really big and it's probably gonna overtake this place. The next stream is in 20 minutes. Music City Mom, thank you for the 3 months. I know. Maybe I should move this to the side in case, right? The Discord fee might be too much for the YouTube people. How dare they say that? Let me fix the volume. It's too loud. I'm just kidding with the YouTube guy. Most of the YouTube people are cool. On here anyway. Damn, yo, is it getting hopped up? What is this? Oh, shit. Go play the oxys. How does the clip thing work? It's like an option to clip shit. Alec Murdoch. You've had to know about the story, watch the trial to know about that. Murdoch. There's another one too. There's a sled one. Is it this one? I don't think it's that one, is it? No. This one?
Any description of the man who's such?
Well, like I said, I did not get a good look at him. Wasn't able to. Excuse me, I feel a little cold. Could you get me a blanket, please?
Sure, I'll be right back.
Sled. Sled right there. Sled. Sled. Demo says I have to apologize. I didn't watch any of the Murdoch stuff. I couldn't be bothered with him. Sorry. You're good. No problem. It was an experience. It was definitely an experience. All right. I guess, let me see. I guess we'll call it for now. I'm going to grab a little something to eat, chill for a second, and then I'll be back at 4:30, okay? We're going to watch the closing arguments for the bathtub serial killer. We watched his interrogation the last 2 days, 6 or 8 hour interrogation. And now they're having they're doing jury deliberation. So we can watch the closing arguments. Maybe we'll see if they pick today, what they're going to do. I don't know how long they're going to keep him there. But David Tronis, the creepy guy, we listened to this jailhouse call yesterday with his mama. Weird ass call. And then we finished watching the interrogation. So, yeah, if you're not subscribed, subscribe, please. Hit the like button, download, check out Discord. It's free. Subscribe to my second channel. Okay, we're doing fun things over there. We haven't had a chase. We need a chase. Where's all the chases at? I'm about to snap. No chases. It's dry. Tomorrow, by the way, they're supposed to be having cameras for the Delphi. What's his name? Richard Allen. They're supposed to have some cameras in the court, and they're doing camera to be in courtroom Thursday. I thought it was like an evidentiary thing. Let me look at it real quick, just so people are in the know. Where I'm gonna figure out how we can stream that. It's at 2 p.m. Eastern. Photography and digital streaming. Okay, hold on. Special judge ruled Tuesday that media outlets will be allowed to record and broadcast the proceedings. Photography and digital streaming not be allowed. I don't know what that means. I guess not streaming. Her order says 1 or 2 cameras will be authorized for pool coverage of the hearing, but members of the general public are prohibited from broadcasting or recording or taking pictures. What? When was this posted? This was an hour ago. So I don't know. I don't know if they're streaming it or not, or if they're going to record, but they can't post it. What? What does that mean? We need one of the media people to clear that up. Jump in the car and create content. Maybe so, Luffy. And then we have a temporary fix, it seems like, for now. A minor temporary fix, enough to, like, if we do long trials, at least we can get by. That's what matters. I mean, the rest will, who knows? Maybe it'll figure itself out. All right, so I'm gonna head out of here. I'll see you guys in about 20 minutes. All right.